right, welcome back to Law and Crime. We are following day 2 of the hearing to remove Fulton County District Attorney Fani Willis from the Donald Trump election interference trial. Willis accused of engaging in a romantic relationship with Special Prosecutor Nathan Wade, whom she hired for the case. Court is currently on lunch break. And they'll be back about 1 o'clock Eastern time. So while they are on lunch, let's continue to catch you up on the remaining testimony of John Floyd III. He is the father of Fani Willis. Let's go back to court and listen to more of that testimony.
By one of the gentlemen that wrote the book at the DA's office, and Mr. Wade came in. Can you give us, other than 2023, what the date would be?
I'm sorry, I can't, counsel.
How about spring, summer? Any idea?
I would guess spring or summer, but I can't. I don't. I'm sorry.
And you've already indicated, at least to your recollection, that was the first time that you'd met Mr. Wade.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, not arguing with you about that. I want to go to Ms. Willis's boyfriend that you referenced. Okay, you met Ms. Willis's boyfriend, as you've characterized it, when you came here in 2019.
Correct.
And you met him on one occasion, several occasions?
Oh, no, I saw him often.
Oh, so you mean there was no secret that she was dating this man?
Not from me.
Not from you.
And he was a disc jockey of some kind. I think he had a government job during the day. I don't know what it was, but apparently he would do weddings and so forth and so on. He was a disc jockey, play music. So he had all his stuff was always in the way, and I was always having to try to push it aside. And, anyway. But
Ms. Willis, your daughter didn't keep him from you, correct?
No.
No, I mean, there was no doubt he...
I mean, my daughter and I lived in the same house. I mean, and he came and went,
Right. Now, when did you learn that your daughter had a romantic, personal relationship with Mr. Wade?
Well, about 7 weeks ago when as a matter of fact, I just found out when other folks found out. Okay.
That is, your daughter, as I understand it, never told you one time in the year of 2022 that she was dating Mr. Wade, correct?
That's correct.
And until recently, you didn't know from anyone, including your daughter, that she dated Mr. Wade, correct?
That's correct.
That is, whatever the relationship is between father and daughter, she kept that a secret from you, correct?
Correct.
That's all I need to know. Mr. Stockton.
No.
Good morning, Mr.
Good morning.
Floyd.
Good morning, Counsel.
When your daughter moved or left the house that she owned, did she say anything to you about having a large savings of cash?
Oh, no, no. See, maybe, excuse me, and Your Honor, I'm not trying to be racist, okay? But it's a black thing, okay? I was trained, and most black folks, they hide cash or they keep cash. And I train, you always keep some cash because I've been places, and just because of the color of my skin, for example, I took a fellowship at Harvard when my daughter was just, if I might, Your Honor, when I was just, she was just, maybe 3 years old. And I remember going to a restaurant in Cambridge, Massachusetts. And I had a American Express credit card and maybe a Visa or whatever. And I had a lot of what they call traveler's checks. I don't even know if they still have traveler's checks, but traveler's checks. And there was a sign said, with the credit card. For whatever reasons, the man would not take my American Express credit card. So I pulled out my Visa card, and he wouldn't take my Visa card. So then I pulled out my traveler's checks. He said, we don't take checks. Now, these were traveler's checks. This was money. I had a $10 bill. I'll never forget this as long as I live. And he said, the bill for my wife at the time, Fani's mother, Fani and myself was like $9.95, and I had a $10 bill. That was all that. And I always remember that. But even before that, I've always kept cash, and I've told my daughter, you keep 6 months worth of cash always. For example, I had 3 safes in my house. I put some of my clients' stuff there too, things I didn't want other lawyers to be, because you're always in a firm, and I knew that there were special conditions. So some of my clients' things I would bring home, put them in the safe. But I've always kept safes. And as a matter of fact, I gave my daughter her first cash box and told her always keep some cash.
So is that a yes?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
That's all I got, Judge.
Mr. Durham.
No questions.
Mr. McDougald. Thank you. Mr. Rice.
No questions, Your Honor.
Mr. Gillen.
It's still morning. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, counsel. How are you?
Just fine. Just a few questions following up. When you were talking about when you learned about Mr. Wade and your daughter, correct?
Correct.
Now, did your daughter tell you in around October of 2022 that she had gone on a Caribbean cruise with Mr. Wade to the Bahamas?
The answer is I knew that my daughter had gone, but I did not know who she went with or what the circumstances were. So I knew that she had gone out of town, but I didn't know with whom.
I see. And did she tell you in November of 2022 that she had gone to Aruba and stayed at a Hyatt Regency resort there in Aruba for 3 days with Mr. Wade? Did she tell you that?
The answer was, again, I knew she went out of town. I didn't even know where she went. I knew she was going out of town. She told me she was going out of town. I think she might have said she was going out of the country or something. She'd be going. But other than that, that was all.
Okay. And did she tell you in March of 2023 that she was going to Belize for several days with Mr. Wade?
The same answer, that I knew she would tell me she was going out of town, and she may or may not have told me where she was going, but she'd be gone for a couple of days.
Okay. Now, in 2023, you were in many days you would be out in California, correct?
Some days I'd be in California, correct.
Okay. Well, did she tell you in May of 2023 that she was traveling to Napa Valley with Mr. Wade, so maybe y'all could see each other when she visited California with Mr. Wade?
The answer is no.
And so the first time that you ever met Mr. Wade or learned about Mr. Wade, to your recollection, was in 2023?
That's correct.
That's all I have, Your Honor. Thank you.
Mr. Kucherov. On Zoom.
Yes, Ron, just a couple quick questions. Good morning, sir. I know I can't see you.
I can't see you either, but
Take a moment.
good morning, counsel.
We take a moment. Let's just pause, see if we can change the screens to show Mr. Kucherov.
Okay, so that testimony seems to be wrapping up, and the real question is, what help did it do for anybody, really? Natalie Whittingham-Burrell is here, Katherine Lizardo. So let's dive into this, Natalie, and you started this, so I'm going to blame you. You may not know, but I'm not black. And I'm hearing, when we get to this cash issue, that there may be a cultural component, and we just heard Dad suggests that he did, and he corroborates his daughter, Fani Willis, tell her at some point, you got to have 6 months cash in your house. Tell me your take on all of that.
Oh, yeah. So, I think I have just a similar experience. I'm both Black and the child of immigrants. And so my understanding is that it used to be Black people couldn't even have access to banks traditionally in this country. And so the way I was raised, and a lot of Black people and immigrant people that I know, was to keep a few months of your money on hand in case anything went wrong. The thing I was always told was, what if the banks, crash or something crazy happens and you can't access your money? You should always have a good amount of your money stashed away somewhere. And that would be under the mattress or in a safe or something like that. Obviously, as time goes on, that's not how most people do it anymore. But I didn't realize that people weren't doing that anymore, because that's what I was raised to do. So I think this may be a cultural divide.
And it's very interesting and important, Katherine, because I think one of the key things this judge has to believe is that this reimbursement of cash by Mr. Wade, by Fani Willis to Mr. Wade for things he paid for, has to be reasonable. It has to make some sense. So if, in fact, it is normal for some folks to keep a lot of cash on hand for whatever reason they do that, it may affect this judge's ultimate decision. Is it that important? What do you think?
I think it's very important because we heard a lot of questioning by the defense against Fani Willis as to that cash, especially in relation to her travel with Wade, as to why were you exchanging cash. And they were obviously alluding as to whether that's to prevent any record whatsoever of any exchange of money or any gifts, because as a prosecutor, she has that duty to report anyone giving her gifts over $100. So they're trying to establish impropriety, not just a romantic relationship, but also getting gifts improperly. And with the dad actually saying that is all reasonable, then that defeats a lot of the defense argument about that. And as I mentioned earlier, it is a cultural and socioeconomic issue that some folks might not understand because, as an immigrant, and as I mentioned earlier, growing up poor, you keep cash and it's just subconsciously you have. And I remember that Fani Willis also testified that she takes cash with her because it's easier to negotiate lower prices like cab fare or, trying to get a better deal with any of the fun activities they were doing during their vacations. That's also a socioeconomic thing where you know how to negotiate and lower the price using cash, not credit card.
Yeah, I think she said she took $4,000 to Belize, $4,000 in cash. Yikes. Anyway, it all turned out fine. The trip apparently was just fine. Now some of the blowback from that trip may be getting into her professional life. So we're going to take a break. Going to come back. They are at lunch. We just heard from Fani Willis's father, the last witness of the morning. Who knows what's going on this afternoon, but we will have it for you when we come right back.